All righty, and I have one to order the January 2021 meeting of the Knox County Board of Zoning Appeals. If the representative of the clerk's office could give a roll call vote, please, or a roll call.
Patricia Williams.
Present.
Jamie Rowe.
Present.
James Corcoran.
Present.
Ashley Williams. Cecil Anderson.
Here.
Terry Kerr.
Here.
David Harden.
Here.
Rebecca Longmire.
Here.
Robert Thompson.
Here.
You have 8 members present.
My name wasn't called.
Who? Rebecca Longmire?
No, this is Charles and
No,
Tabitha.
you called mine.
No, those were the members' names that I just called. Members
Oh.
only.
Members of the board.
So you have 8 members present. Mr. Ashley Williams is out.
All righty, yeah. Mr. Williams had indicated that he had a family medical emergency and might not be able to attend. So that's what's going on there. Ms. Kerr, if you'd be willing to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag.
of the United States of
The
America,
United States of America,
Public
and to the republic
lands.
which is
for
one
which it
nation,
stands,
under God,
one nation,
indivisible,
under God,
liberty,
indivisible,
justice,
with
Justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
It's difficult to do over the delay. Okay. Members are volunteers from each county commission district. We do not receive compensation for the work on this board and training we attend. As a quasi judicial body, we avoid ex parte conversations and conduct our business in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. I'm the chairperson. The vice chairperson is Ms. Terry Kerr. We have a representative of the law director's office, Mr. Myers Morton. And I believe my understanding is, since we are doing this meeting electronically, that we need to have a vote with regards to a motion and a vote to find that it is necessary for the health and safety of the public to conduct this meeting electronically. Do I have a motion to that effect?
A second.
I so move.
Okay, Ms. Longmire has moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Kerr is seconded, I guess. If we could do a roll call vote, and affirmative vote is indicating that it is necessary to conduct this meeting electronically due to the COVID outbreak.
Patricia Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Williams votes aye. Ms. Rowe.
Aye.
Ms. Rowe votes aye. Mr. Corcoran.
Aye.
Mr. Corcoran votes aye. Mr. Ashley Williams is out. Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson votes aye. Ms. Kerr.
Aye.
Ms. Kerr votes aye. Mr. Harden.
Aye.
Mr. Harden votes aye. Ms. Longmire.
Aye.
Ms. Longmire votes aye. Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson votes aye. 8 members present, voting aye.
And if the representatives of Knox County and municipal government could identify themselves for the record, just so we know who all is here.
For Knox County Codes, we have Kim Jarnigan, Tammy Harvey, Steve Elliott, Kelly Vaughn, Bart Roundtree, and I believe Jim Snowden, the senior director, will also be in the room. Also in the room with us today is the representative from the law director's office, Myers Morton.
Okay, let's see. And our voting procedure requires 5 affirmative votes or positive votes for a motion to be approved, regardless of the number of board members that are present. 8 members here today. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the prior meeting?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the
I
prior.
so move.
I believe I heard Ms. Kerr first. Ms. Longmire, do you second? Okay, we have a motion properly seconded. If we could do a roll call vote to approve the minutes of the prior meeting.
Miss Patricia Williams.
Aye.
Miss Williams votes aye. Miss Rowe.
Aye.
Ms. Rowe votes aye. Mr. Corcoran?
Aye.
Mr. Corcoran votes aye. Mr. Anderson? Mr. Anderson votes aye. Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr votes aye. Mr. Harden.
Aye.
Mr. Harden votes aye. Ms. Longmire?
Aye.
Ms. Longmire votes aye. Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson votes aye. All 8 members present voting aye.
Okay. All righty, and the Knox County Board of Zoning Appeals is authorized to grant variances and hear other matters by a Tennessee code and the Knox County zoning ordinance. Specifically, these laws prescribe parameters required to grant a variance. The burden of proving the grounds for variance rests upon the applicant. For each matter, the clerk will read the request on the record. I'll then ask if the applicant is present, and then ask if there is any opposition or any other speakers who wish to present. You do not have to come forward at this time, but if you could signal that you are present. Once we determine the speakers for each item, we will call on governmental agencies such as Knox County Codes, Planning Commission, or Engineering to make statements regarding the facts pertinent to the property and the background of the request. Board members may ask questions of these agencies once they have made their statement. I will then call upon the applicant to come forward and state their name and address for the record and present their evidence and reasoning supporting the granting of a variance. If there's no opposition, applicants have 10 minutes. If there is opposition, the applicant and opposition each have up to 15 minutes. After the applicant's presentation, board members may ask questions of the applicant. We will then call for opposition or other parties who have their 15 minutes. This 15 minutes applies to all parties. So if there are multiple parties that wish to speak, if you all can divide it up beforehand, I know that's a little bit more difficult in this electronic format, but at least try to be cognizant of other people who desire to speak. After opponents speak, board members may ask questions of the opposition. Finally, there will be discussion of the case by the board, during which commissioners may ask further questions of the parties that have already testified. Then board members will make any determinations that it deems necessary. Our bylaws do allow an applicant in an initial hearing of the matter to request a deferral of 30 or 60 days without prejudice. In the event of a deferral of an application or failure to appear, any opponents who may desire to be heard at the meeting may be heard at that time. Now, if our deputy law director could swear in any speakers or those who wish to address the board today.
Could everyone that's going to be presenting evidence before this board, please raise your right hand and swear after me. I solemnly swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Please say I do or I affirm.
I do.
I affirm.
I do.
I do.
Mr. Chairman, I'll also make a note. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'll also make a note. Some of us are hard of hearing. So when you are testifying, please make an effort to speak louder than you think you should so everyone can hear you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now, for any agenda changes or corrections, I think that during our agenda planning meeting an hour ago, we discussed that I think we anticipate that item 4H might be a little bit faster than item 4G. So we are going to flip the order of that. So we are actually going to do item 4H, which is the leaks application prior to item 4G. Just because I think in the interest of time, I think those we've determined that should be help get us people out of here a little bit quicker. Now, if the representative from the clerk's office could read into the record the first matter, which is item 4A.
This is the request of Peyton Cooper for waiver of 1 acre per dwelling to 2 dwellings per 1.60 acres located at 1824 Ricketts Lane, CLT map 129, parcel 131, zone AG in the 6th Commission District.
Okay. And before we get started, Commissioner Kerr, do you have your hand up?
I do.
You're muted.
I do.
Hang on.
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
unmuted.
I'm addressing Ms. Kerr, one of the board members. Hang on just a second, Mr. Cooper, okay?
Yes, sir.
I am not sure when I need to make a note that I'm going to recuse myself from item number 4C.
Okay. We'll just, I think, make a note of that right now, and I appreciate you letting us know that.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Cooper, just hang tight. We're going to have our folks from Knox County Codes kind of give us a quick rundown of this real quick, and then we'll ask you to speak. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Codes item 4A, please.
Yes, Mr. Cooper is requesting a variance to allow 2 dwelling units on 1.6 acres in the ag zone. The zoning ordinance says you have to have 2 acres, 1 acre per each dwelling unit. His request is to reduce that number from 2 to 1.6 acres.
Is there anything in particular from Code's perspective that's really unique to this piece of property as far as topography or shapes of the lot or anything like that?
Nothing that I'm aware of. I would add that the current parcel is 4 acres, and it is our understanding there is currently 4 dwelling units on 4 acres, which is non-conforming. The applicant's proposal is to add a lot line, which would produce 1 conforming lot and 1 non-conforming lot. We would not issue any future building permits or allow any additional dwelling units on either parcel. So they also did provide us with an affidavit that one of the structures would be torn down once an aging family member passes away.
All righty. And is the applicant present?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Mr. Cooper, and do we have any opposition? Is anyone here in opposing item 4A? I don't see anything. So that according to our rules, you've got, if you need it, 10 minutes, Mr. Cooper, to kind of walk us through this and explain why you believe that you should be entitled to a variance.
Yes, sir. Do I need to have my video on or no?
I don't know, does the board have any objections to proceeding as is?
I mean, I can. It's no whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm more than welcome to.
Tell you what, just for the benefit of anyone watching at home, just so we see that you are who you say you are. Yeah.
Yep.
Just walk us through
So
what's going on here.
Okay, so my name's Peyton Cooper. You know, we're trying to put another house on my grandmother's property in Hardin Valley. You know, she's bad in health, of course, so trying to more so just try to help take care of her and everything. We got my other family on the property as well. My mama and my mother both live on the property as well. We've owned this property for almost 50 years now. And like I said, my grandmother, she's not in good health. She's got lung issues and heart issues and stuff. And once she does pass away, we are going to be tearing her house down. You know, it's not in good shape. It's not even worth saving, honestly. So once she does pass away, her house will be torn down immediately, you know, to accommodate for that lot being the right size. So, I mean, it's more so, and I've had a lot of struggles with the people I've been getting my house from. You know, they ain't really helped me out. I was under consumption that they'd be doing all this for me, and they ain't. So I've kind of gotten jacked up in the system, not really knowing everything. And, you know, my house is already sitting there. I'm paying a payment on it. You know, and it'd be nice just to be able to get it there, be able to help out with my grandmother and be with my family and stuff on the same property as them, and kind of keep the property going so somebody else don't buy it out and build another subdivision on it. So I guess that's pretty much about all I can say on them. You know, we just really like to put our house there. You know, it's like I said, it's a family property, and I'd like to stay on the family property. So
That it?
And again, you know, like I said, I mean, I say this with open mind. I don't foresee my grandmother making it through the year. Like I said, she has serious heart issues and lung issues. She's got to be on oxygen 24/7. You know, somebody's got to pretty much be there all day to watch over for her. And my wife, she's a stay-at-home mom, and the rest of the family members on the property all work all day. And she, you know, she falls, and she fell a couple weeks ago and busted her head open, had to have stitches and all kinds of work done on her head. And so, I mean, more so too, it'll help out just kind of keep an eye on her during the day when everybody else is gone. Nobody's there to watch over. So be a big blessing if we could get our house put there.
All right. Thank you. Since there's no opposition, any discussion from members of the board, please? Mr. Anderson?
Mr. Cooper, I was reading the letter that you wrote on December the 27th,
Yes, sir.
and it says that once she is gone or the house worsens and she agrees to move in with us, the house will be torn down. Are there any opposition or any reason for why if she can't move in, if she's not going to be around maybe much longer?
She honestly, she just don't want to. We've tried buying her a new house. We've went to the things of all the grandkids and family members who's going to pitch in and help buy her a new house, and she just don't want to leave her house. That's the house she's lived in since she bought the property 43 or 45 years ago. You know, she just old stubborn lady, don't want to leave.
So is this house that you're referring to, is it on the property now?
Yes, sir. Yes, it's in front of my house.
And why would you be wanting to add another home then?
Because her home is not, once she passes away, her home is not in good enough shape to really even do anything with. It costs more money to fix it up and redo it than it's worth. So we put a new house in there, a double wide, so we'd have a new home and not have to deal with that one. Because it needs to be torn down. It's in rough shape. Like I said, it was built 40 years ago, and every hack and their brother messed with it. So
you've already put the trailer in there now?
yeah, it's there. But it's been there for 2 months. Like I said, you know, when this all started, the housing company, I thought they would have dealt with a lot more. And we got the house there. And once I got the house there, I started having all that property issues once I started getting into trying to get my permits. Because for like my septic tank and all that, of course, I had to go to the county codes building, and then we got into the issue with it being 0.4 acres shy of what it needs to be.
Well, I mean, I think maybe my concern is is she living in the house now, but then you've added a trailer so that she's going to move into the trailer?
No. She's wanting to live the rest of her life out in the home she's in now, in her personal home.
Okay.
And I put the trailer on there for me and my family, like me and my wife and kids.
I got you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Longmire?
Well, one thing, I don't have a little hand on my computer that says to raise my hand, so I'll be waving at you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the waiver. I think Codes has said that he has given an affidavit that the house would be torn down as soon as his grandmother either passed or was willing to move in with him. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the waiver of 1 acre per dwelling to 2 dwellings per 1.6 acres in an agricultural zone.
I'll second.
Thank you.
We have a motion properly seconded. I guess we'd open the floor to any further discussion of the motion prior to voting.
Ms. Rowe?
Ms. Rowe?
I have all the sympathy in the world, and I agree that it's a real bad situation. But last month, we had a guy that had 1.48 acres, and we said that he couldn't do it. I don't see how we can justify that. If somebody from Codes can help me, that's fine. I mean, I would love to vote for this, but I don't see how we can turn that guy down and approve this. I don't see the difference, because they were going to remove the trailer once the man died too.
Thank you, Ms. Rowe. Mr. Thompson, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rather than giving a variance, is it possible for us to ask Code simply to delay any enforcement actions for the time being and have them review the situation, say in 6 months?
Codes, could you hear the question?
I'm sorry, we could not hear the question.
I think the question was, if you don't mind me restating it, Mr. Thompson, you're a little bit hard. We're having a little trouble hearing you. it's basically, is there be some way to delay enforcement on this action, perhaps for 6 months? I guess, how quickly does codes need to take any action on this, I guess is the question.
I think the problem is that the mobile home company didn't obtain a permit prior to moving the home onto the property. Now the applicant needs that building permit to get power turned on to the home, I'm assuming, or get utilities turned on. So if there was a permit out there and we already had the home in and permitted, we could delay enforcement. The problem is we need to issue him a permit so he can get utilities, and the zoning ordinance prohibits us from doing that. So the variance, he would need the variance to get the permit to leave the home in place.
Mr. Cooper, does that accurately describe the situation? Do you have any utilities on in the home that you recently put down there?
There's no utilities or anything on it right now.
Mr. Thompson, do you have more questions or more issues?
Yes, as a follow-up, can you hear me better now?
If you can get closer to your mic, I think you're sounding really far away.
How's this? Is this better?
Yes.
I just don't want to scream. I understood the answer from codes. If we do have a waiver, then can we attach a condition that it's only in effect, and I'm not sure exactly how to phrase it, but the condition would be that the existing old home will have to be torn down. And I'm
Yes,
not sure how that would be worded or enforced, but can we have that as a condition?
I think the codes office would request that if you do approve the variance, that we have them place a note on the plat that the second structure on that parcel would be torn down. That way, if they try to sell the property, or any future potential buyers would understand that it can't have those two structures there.
Is that your only question, Mr. Thompson? Okay, Mr. Cooper, I see your hand is up.
Yes, sir.
Is there something you wanted to add there?
Yeah, and on that note of getting that house removed, and I will be more than glad, of course, just as soon as whatever happens, I would be more than glad to come up there, of course, to get my demolition permit, to get it all demoed and everything the day of or the day after, whatever, just to make ends meet.
Now, and remind me, your relation to is your grandmother who currently owns the house?
It's my great grandmother.
Okay.
But my great grandmother, so my mom, her mom, and then her mom's mom all live on the same property. So we got 3 generations on the same property.
I guess I'd have a question for the law director's office. I think what folks are trying to do is come up with something creative to try to say that upon the passing of the current resident, that one of the homes will be torn down. I guess the question I've got is, can the applicant who's here make that promise, since I don't think if this is a grandmother's home or a great grandmother's home, I don't know that, I guess from a legal standpoint, I don't know that he can bind that piece of property if it's not his piece of property yet. I don't know how he can, is there a legal way where we can say that piece of property would or that residence would get torn down without the property owner being here making?
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
my
first question is, who owns it? I'm looking at the owner is Fred and Annette C. Kirby or Joyce K. Hobson. I'm curious who the owner of this this 3.6 acres is. Who's the title owner? I do not know.
Mr. Cooper, you have to answer that question?
Yes, the titled owner is Joyce Hobson. That is my mom's mom. The woman who is about to pass away is who owned the property, and she went ahead and deeded it down to her daughter, so that if she passed away, all of her deeding side was already done, and she didn't have to deal with it or worry with it.
Is
So
that Annette
the
C.
property.
Kirby?
Do what?
I'm sorry to interrupt. You said Joyce Kay Hobson conveyed it to her granddaughter, I guess?
No.
Is that
Annetta Kirby signed it down to her daughter, which is Joyce Hobson.
so?
And
Joyce
we've got a
Hobson.
letter, we have a letter from Joyce Hopkins that is in with this, that says that the house will be torn down also, along with. the
Yeah,
letter.
that's my mom's mom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and she's
Mr.
the
Chairman.
owner. And she's
Yes.
indicating that she's the owner currently.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Myers Morton again. If Miss Joyce K. Hobson, the owner of the property, likewise would represent by affidavit that would be torn down, that she's the owner, she can bind it. And as the codes has suggested, a note on the plat would be something that would be recorded in the register of deeds and make that of record, where if the property's sold or whatever, it'd be a condition of ownership. Does that answer your question, Mr. Chairman?
It is. Okay. And I'm sorry, I'm having trouble keeping the name straight, Mr. Law Director. Whose affidavit is it that you're saying we need?
The owner,
Yeah. Okay.
which I understand is Joyce K. Hobson today.
Okay. Mr. Cooper, do you think that's, if we were to say, continue this to the next month's hearing, do you think you could arrange to have paperwork from that person saying that they're in agreement? I see the other Mr. Cooper raising his hand.
Yeah.
If you could identify yourself by name and address, please.
Sure. My name's Danny Kirby, 3035 Port Royal Lane, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37938. I'm sorry, I'm borrowing Peyton's link to join in this meeting. This property is my mother's property that she has now deeded to my sister. I can verify that my sister would be on board with signing an affidavit, whatever needs to be signed, to ensure that when my mother does pass, that we'll tear this house down. We've, as Peyton said, we've tried to get her into a new home and new place, but my father bought that property. We grew up on Lawson Avenue, and my father bought that property in 1978. We drove out there weekend after weekend after weekend, clearing land by hand. All he ever thought was this would at least be a place for my children or my grandchildren to live if they needed a place. And so I just ask that you all grant this variance, and hopefully I can at least affirm on behalf of my sister that she would be in very much agreement. I would hope that we can address this today and not have to wait another 30 days for another meeting. We could produce an affidavit quickly.
We've got a letter that's signed by her right now that's saying that she will have it torn down.
Sorry, which Mr. Anderson, we've got a lot of documents for today. Which person's actually signed it?
It's Miss Hobson, Joyce Hobson. It's dated 1/11/21, and she's indicating that she's the owner of the property and that she will have the house torn down at her mother's passing.
Okay.
And it's listed, it's in with the paperwork that we have for this particular item.
Okay. Ms. Kerr, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I have a couple of questions and just concerned as well. And I'm quite sympathetic to where you are and what you're going through. And it's very agitating. We've had it before where homes are placed on a property prior to the company, I guess, doing their due diligence or giving a little more counsel, I guess. But I'm with Ms. Rowe. I think that we had a situation where there was going to be another property placed, and at the passing of, please correct me, Ms. Rowe, if I'm wrong, at the passing of a family member, it was going to be removed. And I think that there was some issue at that point with us being able to do that with our, I guess we could word things differently with this one, but I think this letter here is a little open-ended. I don't think there's a time frame. And again, I'm kind of with Ms. Rowe looking at the, what is the difference? And don't get me wrong, I'm very sympathetic to where you are. I just want to make sure that we as a board are doing what we're supposed to be doing. So I need some help. Somebody, as Ms. Rose said, jump in and kind of give me a little bit of a difference. Codes or law director, Ms. Rowe?
It just seems the same to me. I feel all the sympathy in the world for both families. I don't know what to do. We're just kind of caught in a quagmire. I wish there was a way to help, but I don't see the difference between these two. If somebody can help us see the difference, I'm open to listening.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you. I was just waiting to make sure that Ms. Curd yields her time.
I'm through. I apologize. Let me lower my hand.
All righty. Ms. Williams?
I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand, but since you can't see mine, I thought I better jump in and let you know I'm waiting. So excuse me. Two things. One, I think the difference, Ms. Rowe, you and I fought tooth and nail to try to get the other one approved because, whatever. I think the big difference here to me is the simple fact that they may have had better legal representation or advice in order to have known to do this letter and put this condition in there, which makes it acceptable for us to pass. However, I'd like to ask the board members, is it possible to revisit the other one? It was only a month ago. Don't do that, Mr. Chairman.
I'm trying to think of the procedural issues that would create with the board having already ruled, and that person also not being before us.
And that person, excuse me.
And
can codes interject
not being here.
Can codes interject here and give a perspective from our end of it?
Thank you.
Let me try to. Let me make sure we're doing this. Ms. Williams, are you done?
Yes.
Okay. Codes, go ahead. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure we go one at a time.
The one from last month, the lot was a conforming lot. It had one home on it, and they were asking to place a second. This one is currently non-conforming. So they're going to create one conforming lot and still have one non-conforming lot that'll eventually have a pathway just like the other one. But the lot is currently conforming or non-conforming, and we're not going to make the condition worse by adding a lot line and putting this home on there. So they're going from non-conforming to non-conforming.
Okay. Ms. Williams, does that answer your question?
I need to soak that up a little bit. Because I'm seeing 3.6 acres and it has 4 homes on it. So that's what makes it non-conforming.
That is correct. They would need the ag zone only allows 2 dwelling units, no matter the parcel size, but they got to have a minimum of 2 acres to have those 2 homes, 1 home per acre.
Yes, exactly. I don't see where, there'll still be 4 homes on 3.6 acres once that one is torn down. So I'm missing where it brings it in conformance.
No, there would only be 3 homes once the one's torn down. There would be 2 homes on 2 acres, 1 home on 1.6 acres. Essentially what the applicant is trying to do is add a lot line on the property to create a 1.6 acre lot and a 2 acre lot. The 2-acre lot would have 2 homes on it, would be conforming. The 1.6 would have 2 homes on it, with eventually one of those homes being torn down, and then it would only have 1 home on it. We would not permit anything in the future. So then we would have 2 conforming lots.
So the 4 homes includes the double wide that he has there right now. Okay.
That is correct.
Okay, I was not counting that as one of the 4 homes since it hadn't been permitted and everything. All righty, thank you.
Now, we're discussing this in terms of conditions, but I think the only motion is just to straight out approve the variance. Does and I'm drawing a blank as to who actually made the motion. Does the person who made the motion wanna perhaps?
I made the motion.
Ms. Longmire, since we're discussing this in terms of a
No, I made.
condition, that the piece of property or that the house be torn down at a certain point, do we want to maybe make that amendment to your motion?
If it's necessary, but since there will be a note attached to the file, it's going to have to be torn down one way or the other. I'll add it as a condition, even though I don't think it's necessary considering everything else that's going on. But if it will make things easier, then yes, as a condition to my motion, I would like to say the house will be torn down after the passing of the woman who is currently living in the house.
Is that acceptable to the second?
And I don't know how to say how immediately.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Rowe, I see your hand.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, since they're non-conforming now, is there any way you could make this lot 2 acres and make the other one still non-conforming? And then that way he could do it, and then later they could change the lot line. I don't know, but I just feel really, this is just, we based it on the thing in our zoning ordinance that says 1 per acre, and we were all really torn up about it. And I just don't, something doesn't seem right, but I'm wondering if we could move the lot line.
Ms. Rowe, what they're trying to do is record a plat, and for MPC can't sign the plat because it's creating a non-conforming lot. So if they weren't recording the plat, it'd be simple for the codes office to just handle this with just recording the affidavit, giving the permit. But to record the plat, they need the variance.
What, this is ridiculous.
And basically, they need variances on 2 pieces of property, I think, instead of just the 1. If I'm
No, Mr. Chairman, just the one. The one will be conforming. It would just
I'm
be
just saying if they were to have made the other one non-conforming instead, they would need a variance on that piece of property instead of this one. Is that right?
Oh, yes, that is correct. If they flipped it the other way, they would still need the variance to record the plat.
All righty. Ms. Kerr, I see your hand is up now.
One more question to code. So if I just heard you correctly, you would have approved this new home being placed on the property yourself with the existing one there, knowing that they had given you a letter stating it was going to be torn down. But your problem with doing that is the fact that this just needs to be recorded, the plat, is that correct? And you can't,
yes,
that can't be recorded because, okay. Okay, so codes would have approved this.
Yes.
Knowing it was being torn down.
The plat now. We would have worked with them and got them, yes, we would have worked with them and got it done.
Okay. Personally think whether I'm interjecting this at the right time, I think there needs to be a time limit on the removal of the home.
I agree.
Ms. Kerr, I would like to regret, we would have still made them record a plat for the 3 homes. If the 1 home was gone, they would have had to record a plat for 1 acre for this home and then the 3 acres for the other 2 homes. The platting issue is what's driven the variance.
Correct. Okay.
Well, as a condition, the condition that the house be torn down, we could add that he could, that he must get the demolition permit after she's buried. I don't know how you phrase a time frame, you know.
I don't
Let
know.
him go to the
Within 30
funeral and then he
days.
can go get a demolition. Yeah,
We can
30
we can
days,
put it
within
at
30 days of her passing.
yes, and we can also make it a condition of the permit that we would issue for the new for the double wide. We could make that a condition of that permit as well.
And the wording on the plat.
Yes, we have the plat at our office. We can work with the applicant on the proper language to place on the plat before it gets recorded. And we wouldn't sign that plat to allow it to be recorded till we're satisfied with the wording.
Mr. Harden, I see your hand is up now.
Yeah, can we do make it a two-prong effect, I guess, saying upon her passing or within 2 years? So we'd have a definite time limit on it, or 1 year. This bothers me leaving it open-ended like it is.
Well, I think she has said in her motion that the house will be torn down after the passing 30 days after the passing. I mean,
30 days.
30 days is a reasonable time to get a demolition permit.
Yeah, and to get maybe if you want to put a year's time on there, that's fine too. But I just think that that's a little unnecessary. But anyhow, whatever.
Okay. Mr. Cooper, see your hand is up now. Is there something you need to add or clarify?
Yes, sir. And I would be perfectly fine with, I mean, if we have to do some kind of document stating that within the next 6 months to a year, no matter the circumstances that the house would be torn down, we can even do that. And then just kind of, I mean, if we have to make arrangements for her to, no matter what, get out, you know, I mean, either way. I mean, like I don't and I hate to say it, I don't foresee it being a year. I don't foresee being it through the summer, but you know, I mean, I would be totally fine with signing something, getting documents, having family members sign them, anything I need to do that way, just to make it happen.
Now, Mr. Cooper, I want to make sure that we're not over promising. You might be making commitments to bind other people.
Well,
I see your relative down there raising his hand.
Okay, he's got something to say.
I think Mr. Chairman, I think the motion was that that after the passing, that the demolition would start after the 30 days, and the year didn't have anything to do with whether she was still alive or not. It was just that after her passing, that within 30 days, the house would be started the demolition. And then from that point, if we want to put a year that it has to be completed and demolished within a year, then that, like he said, that would be fine. But I think Mr. Cooper misunderstood as far as whether she was still alive or not. I wanted to clarify that.
Well, right now we just have the motion that's within 30 days, I think is the only thing that's on the floor right now, unless anyone wants to amend their motion. I want to keep it, let's try to keep it simple. Or as simple as we can, given the circumstances.
Yeah, really.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Williams, is your hand still up again?
No, sir.
Okay. So any more discussion? Currently the motion is, I guess, to grant a variance with the condition that upon within 30 days of the passing of the current resident, that there be that the process begin for demolition of the original house. That's the motion currently on the floor? Is there any further discussion?
The process being achieving that's correct.
Okay.
Because the beginning of the process is getting the permit.
Is there any further discussion before we proceed to a vote from members of the board? Okay. Okay. If the clerk could initiate a roll call vote, please.
Before I call the roll, I have a question on the second to the motion. Was that Mr. Harden or Mr.
It
Anderson?
was Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Williams votes aye. Ms. Rowe?
Reluctantly, because we turned the other guy down, I just can't in good conscience vote. I have to say no.
Ms. Rowe votes no. Mr. Corcoran?
No.
Mr. Corcoran votes no. Mr. Williams is out. Mr. Anderson? Mr. Anderson votes aye. Ms. Kerr?
No.
Ms. Kerr votes no. Mr. Harden?
Aye.
Mr. Harden votes aye. Ms. Longmire?
Aye.
Ms. Longmire votes aye. And Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson votes aye. 5 ayes, 3 no votes.
Accordingly, the motion carries and the variance is granted with those restrictions.
Sir,
Thank you all.
Congratulations.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, sir.
All right, take care. Okay, proceeding on to item 4B, if that could be read in the record, please.
James,
It's a
I think
request.
Mr. Cooper had another question.
Cooper.
Yes.
Yes,
Sorry.
Mr. Cooper.
I just want to know if I was free to go now or do I have to stay the rest of the meeting?
You're done.
Okay, thank you, sir. And thank you guys very much for your time.
All right, appreciate it.
You guys have a good day.
Bye.
4B
Okay.
is a request of John Coker. It's for a waiver of front yard setback from 35 feet to 25 feet at 2100 Council Fire Drive, CLT map 048, group HE, parcel 022, zone RA in the 7th Commission District.
I see that Mr. Coker is present. Is there any opposition present to item 4B? You could signify by unmuting and letting me know. Okay, I do not hear any opposition. According to Mr. Coker, when it's your time, you're going to get 10 minutes to sort of discuss the reasons for this application. But before you do that, we're going to have Knox County Codes kind of give us the quick rundown, okay? All right. Codes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a reduction of the front yard setback from 35 feet to 25 feet. The applicant didn't know at the time, but he will also need a variance for allowing that accessory structure to be in the front yard of his house. That is a corner lot, and when he removed the lot line, that makes that a front on both sides of that house. So he'll need 2 variants today, a reduction of 35 feet to 25 feet and to allow an accessory building to be in the front yard of a primary.
Does Codes have a position on this?
We are neutral on it.
And is there any concern about as far as any obstruction of view or anything like that, or any safety concerns?
No, sir. The home is actually in a cul-de-sac, which is the end of the road, so that there is no concern for sight distance or any type of safety issues it may cause to traffic.
Okay. All right. Having heard that, Mr. Coker, if you could kind of run us through your application and the reasons why you believe you should be entitled to variance, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So my name is John Coker. I am the contractor for the customer at 2100 Council Fire Drive. So the owner has combined the 2 lots, and he has installed a pool in the backyard, and he has hired me to build the pool house. So even though that's a combined lot, it's still considered a road front. But behind, so it's his house, the back of the house, and then the end of the cul-de-sac. So there won't be any line of sight or any issues with that. The pool house will be constructed using similar materials in accordance to the neighborhood. And that being, now that he's put a pool there, that's onto the second lot. So that will never be a buildable lot. So therefore that'll never be a road front.
Okay. Anything else you want to add before we start discussing the matter?
No, I think that's kind of that's the overview of it.
Okay. Before I yield the floor to, I guess, any other members of the board, is In this neighborhood, are pool houses sort of a common occurrence, or is this going to be a unique feature to this piece of property? Or
there are several pools in the neighborhood. I'm not aware of any other pool houses, just without going in people's backyard. So he has a side entrance off of the Council Fire, or it's actually off the Shadow Creek side. So that he's got a driveway there, with a side garage to his basement. Then the pool and pool house will sit behind that. So it doesn't look like it's in the front yard of another property.
Any members of the board have any questions or comments or anything they want to just start discussing? Mr. Harden, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I drove by the property a few days ago, actually. Is there a reason why the pool house wants to be built on that side of the pool and not the other side? Or is the pool itself within the 35 feet?
No, the pool is inside the 35 feet. The pumps and everything for the pool, that's where they had planned. The homeowner and the pool builder had planned on having the pumps on that, and the pool house is to hide the pumps from the pool, and then it'll have a privacy fence around that will hide it from the street.
Okay. Then I guess I'd also ask codes if it was permitted this way or how we got to this point.
I'm sorry, repeat the question. The pool or the pool house?
I guess both, because he says the pool is also within the 35 feet.
It's conforming with the 35-foot setback. It's behind the 35-foot setback. It doesn't impede on the setback.
Okay.
Just to clear that up.
And the pool house isn't currently built. The permit was applied for, and we caught the setback at the application and sent them for a variance.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Williams, is your hand is it up now, or did you just not take it down?
I don't think I had it up.
You just didn't take it down.
Not intentionally. Maybe I just didn't take it down.
Okay.
Let me figure that out. Excuse me.
The trouble that I've got with this application is that, for variances, we deal in terms of hardships, and I have trouble articulating a scenario where the failure to have a pool house is a hardship, I guess, is what I'm struggling with personally. We've denied people in the past that have, wanted things a little bit more basic, like detached garages and things like that. And so I have trouble saying that a lack of a pool house is a hardship with a completely straight face is the one issue I'm struggling with here. Perhaps if there's any other members of the board that are seeing it differently, I'm trying to keep an open mind about this one, but I'm struggling a little bit with that particular issue. Or if anyone wants to make a motion that we could discuss.
I'm not really struggling with the issue. I'm trying to determine if I need to be. So they combined the lots, so they would be able to do the pool and the pool house. Is that correct? Not that the restrictions in the neighborhood matter to us, from my understanding. But I'll ask the question, any of the neighbors have any issues, with having a pool house constructed? We've had, that question asked before when something like this was going to be done for any accessory buildings. I guess that would be to you, Mr. Coker.
No, there's none of the neighbors are opposed to it that I'm aware of. No. And the lots were not combined just for the pool. He's owned the lot, I think, since he owned the property.
When did you combine it? I could look that up, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly when he combined the lots.
Okay. And you said that the pool house is going to match the, the structure of the house, the same type finishes as what the house would be?
Yes, that's correct. It'll be similar finishes to the house.
Okay. And Codes, would you tell me again, what are the two variances needed? I'm sorry. You've got the front yard setback from 35 to 25, and you said because the lots were joined together, you're going to have the same?
No, ma'am, you would need to, he would also need a variance to allow an accessory building to extend into the front yard of the primary.
Okay. Is that today as well?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anyone with any further discussion or any motion? Oh, Ms. Longmire. Can you hear me, Ms. Longmire?
To me, the hardship would be on the neighborhood. Having the pool house built, hiding the equipment and allowing some privacy there would make the neighborhood a better option, having said that I hate corner lots because there shouldn't be two front yards. So I would like to make a motion that we approve the waiver for a setback from 35 feet to 25 feet, and also a waiver to build an accessory building in the second front yard.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Do we have any further discussion? Oh, Mr. Thompson, I see your hand is up. You're muted, Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Coker, has the pump already been installed?
Has the what been installed? I'm sorry.
Has the pool pump already been installed?
The pool pump.
The pool pump, yes. So all the pool is. I haven't been by there in a couple of weeks. I'd imagine the pool's pretty close to finished. So yeah, all the plumbing and pumps are run out, which is why I filed a variance and didn't look to move it somewhere else. Like the other lady said, it will hide the pool pumps. With a pool house, it's going to look a lot nicer than PVC and pumps sticking up in the backyard.
Pool pump is not necessarily a large thing. I mean, you don't necessarily need a whole house for a pump. You could just put a small fence around it.
Yeah. Well, it's an 8x10 pool house, and then the pool house will have a small privacy fence to include the pumps. The pool house is the customer hired me to build the pool house because they wanted a bathroom outside to keep people from going in and out of their house, in and out of the pool, and having to go in their house for a bathroom.
I understand. That's not necessary to hide the pump. If our goal is to hide the pumps from the neighbors, a small fence would be enough to hide the pump.
I mean, in my opinion, the neighbors would have a problem with a
I'll
fence.
just leave that there. My other question is to the law director.
Vicky, you need to cut your video.
Leaving that alone for now. My recollection is, am I cutting out?
You're better now that you're better without the video.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We not need, if we were going to grant the second variance on the front yard issue, would that not need to be properly noticed to the public? My recollection from past meetings is we can't add a variance that has not been noticed previously.
That's a good point.
That's all.
Mr. Law Director, were you able to hear that question? And I think y'all are muted.
Yeah, give him a second here. I'm repeating the question to him.
That is a good point.
The application is only for reduction of the front yard setback, but the action also needs a second variance to allow the structure to be in front of the primary. Do we need to proper notice that?
What do you think? Just a second, Mr. Chairman, please.
May I say something while they're deliberating?
Please do.
I just want to get my audio quality. Am I not coming through clearly? Is it?
You're a little quiet, but I think we're hearing you now that when you turned your camera off, I think that you're using a little bit less bandwidth, so I can hear you.
Okay, how is this? Is this better?
That is better.
Yes.
Is it distorted at all?
You sound a lot better than you did earlier.
Okay, that's just for future reference. Thank you.
And you're a little bit soft spoken, and I think our law director deputy is a little bit has a little bit of trouble hearing.
Well, it's a perfect storm, Mr. Chairman.
It is. It is. Have we weathered the storm? Do you have an answer to the question?
It's my impression, since we're here on the matter for a variance for this pool house to extend beyond the front of the home. The question is also similar in nature. A technical difference is it's in the front yard. So it's the law director's understanding and belief that it doesn't need to be re-noticed, and the notice will everyone should know that it's the same issue. But there's two variances granted, but I don't believe it has to be re-advertised and start over, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Does that answer
All right.
the question?
Mr. Thompson, do you feel that your question's been answered to your satisfaction? You're muted. Is that a yes? Okay. All righty. And if you, just so I can keep things straight, if you could put your electronic hand down just so I can not get confused at a later time. All righty. So we have a motion seconded, I believe, to approve both requested variances. Any further discussion from the members of the board prior to proceeding to a vote? Okay. Hearing none. Just the trouble I have with this one is we've called things that are a little bit more necessities than a pool house not a hardship because it didn't rise to the level of regulatory taking. So that's the trouble I have with this one. But I think everyone said their piece. So I think if we could proceed to a roll call vote, please. An affirmative vote would be a vote to approve both requested variances.
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Williams votes aye. Ms. Rowe?
No.
Ms. Rowe votes no. Mr. Corcoran?
No.
Mr. Corcoran votes no. Mr. Williams is out. Mr. Anderson? Mr. Anderson votes aye. That is correct. You said aye?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr votes aye. Mr. Harden?
You're muted.
You're muted, Mr. Harden.
Still muted.
No.
Mr. Harden votes no. Ms. Longmire?
Aye.
Ms. Longmire votes aye. And Mr. Thompson?
No.
Mr. Thompson
No.
votes no. You have 4 ayes and 4 noes.
Okay, we require 5 affirmative votes on a motion. Are there any conditions or other stipulations that could cause anyone to likely change their vote? Any further discussion on this issue? Ms. Kerr?
Okay, so how far off are we on the pool house again? what are we, how many?
It's less than 10 feet.
Okay. So no wiggling, no wiggling. Is that the absolute most you have to have, or what's the very least amount you have to have? Do you think that's it?
25 feet, yes.
Okay. Do you think that's it?
25.
I mean, to me, this is, having a little garage shed in your backyard, I suppose, but it is, especially having had a pool before, just having a fence to hide equipment, is one thing, but, you've got chemicals, fences, I guess, unless you completely fence around, but not good for the chemicals. You have other things that are involved with the pool that could be, of a safety concern if you have kids running around that you would not want them to be able to get to. I'm assuming part of this pool house would contain the chemicals and hoses and Polaris and things like that we wouldn't want, kids or animals or whatnot to be in. So, I mean, I don't think it's, a pool and a pool house kind of go hand in hand. Let's call it rather than a pool house, I don't see it as being a pool house, meaning it's got a bedroom and living room and kitchen inside of it. So, to me, I think the definition of a pool house, I've seen a lot of different types of pool houses. This does not sound like it's an additional, living type quarter pool house, if that makes sense. It's just my 2 cents, but I wouldn't want my chemicals inside my house, and I wouldn't want them around my kids. I'd want them to where they're not out in front of everybody or my animals. So,
Ms. Williams, I think you had your hand up next.
Thank you. I guess I voted yes simply because it is a front yard, but it's not a house or a home going in there. Similar to what Commissioner Kerr said, it's a pool house. He said it's 8 by 10. Although that's a front yard, they're not trying to build a house or another living structure, and it's an addition, attached on. I also feel that they may have taken it one step at a time instead of addressing the whole issue. Had they addressed the entire issue, the pool and the pool house at once, they would have been made aware of this condition and been able to make adjustments before breaking ground for the pool even. So I don't think it was malicious, and I don't think that it's also not a home or a big house. In addition, it is at the cul-de-sac where the traffic will slow down and it goes into that curve. The cul-de-sac helps to shorten the depth from the street because of that loop, that bulb there that creates the cul-de-sac. So I feel that is the cul-de-sac creates a new property line that they were not considering, a shorter distance than what the house sits on. If that makes sense. Am I being clear?
I'm following you.
Yeah.
Mr. Thompson, I see your hand is up.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Ms. Kerr raises a good point about the chemicals, but the chemicals do not need to be stored with the pump. The chemicals could be stored in a separate enclosure on the other side of the pool. So I don't think chemicals are a rationale to approve this. And again, I agree with the chair in his initial statement that a pool is basically a luxury. It's not a necessity. It's not an unreasonable hardship to deny this. Thank you.
Ms. Longmire?
Having had a pool at one time when my granddaughters were young, having a pool house, not just for chemicals, which do need to be locked away, and they have to be kept at a certain temperature in order to be safe, but also the equipment, the floaties, the little rafts, all of that have to be stored away. Otherwise, they do impinge on the neighborhood's aesthetics. Plus, having a bathroom in the pool house does keep water off your floors in more than one way, depending on how long the kids wait to get out of the pool. But so yeah, I see that the pool house, if you have a pool house is, in my mind, a necessity in order to have the pool functioning as it should.
Also, don't want it to be a penalty.
Okay, Mr. Harden, I think I saw your hand next.
I agree, a pool house would be nice to have with a pool. I have a pool as well, but I don't think it absolutely has to be in that location. Why can't the pipes be in one place covered by a fence and the pool house in another location? We seem to be at an impasse. Is there any compromise in that suggestion?
So where the pumps are now, if we were to put a fence, it would be an isolated fence in the middle of the yard. If I was a neighbor, I would have a problem with that versus it tied to a small pool house to hide the pumps. I mean, you don't see a fence sitting out isolated in the middle of the yard. So it would either be that or it would be just the pumps exposed, which are going to look bad on the neighborhood.
Not good.
Mr. Anderson?
It's my understanding that we had a vote of 4-4. And Bob, I think when he voted no. And I think if I understood, he changed his vote to yes. Is that correct, Bob?
I think you misheard him.
No,
I'm sorry.
he did not.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Well,
Still no. Still no.
still no.
That's harsh.
I don't want us to keep here sort of tilting at the windmills at a complete impasse. I will say, unlike a lot of other cases we've had with these issues, this yard is kind of tucked away a little bit where we've got this cul-de-sac where it's not like there's a whole bunch of traffic going back and forth. And I Ms. Kerr did bring up some issues as far as the keeping the chemicals away from children that certainly an argument not without merit. Rather than keep hearing us not being able to do the business of the rest of the county, I think I'm willing to change my vote and join the and say that Ms. Kerr has successfully persuaded me. So if we could have a second vote on the prior motion, Mr. Law Director, is that acceptable to just to revote, or do we need to formally make the motion again? And the folks with the Law Director, y'all are muted, so we can't hear you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, you can change any member can change their vote.
Okay, do we just need to do it another roll call vote? Or can I just say that I've changed my vote to an affirmative?
Another roll call vote, please.
Okay.
Is my advice.
If we could do Madam Clerk, if we could do another roll call vote, please.
So we continue with the same makers of the motion and just do a
Yes.
recall. Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Miss Williams.
Aye.
Miss Williams votes aye. Miss Rowe.
No.
Miss Rowe votes no. Mr. Corcoran.
Aye.
Mr. Corcoran votes aye. Mr. Williams is out. Mr. Anderson. What did you say? I'm sorry. Mr. Anderson votes aye.
Yes.
Miss Kerr.
Aye.
Miss Kerr votes aye. Mr. Harden.
No.
Mr. Harden votes no. Miss Longmire.
Aye.
Miss Longmire votes aye. And Mr. Thompson.
No.
Mr. Thompson votes no. 5 aye votes, 3 no votes.
Okay. Accordingly, the variance is granted, in addition to the reduction in the setback, also allowing the accessory structure to be in the technical legal front yard. Okay, variance is
Thank
granted.
you.
Thank you. All righty, if we could proceed to the next matter in the agenda.
It's item 4C, request of Katrina Butler. To appeal Knoxville Planning Commission approval of file number 12-A-20-UR to require the following conditions. Number one, the addition of a common area of 1.5 acres and for the residents of Edwards Place to have access to it. And number two, the addition of passive and active recreational uses. Properties located at 7605 Twin Oak Lane, CLT map 021, parcel 010, zoned PR and PRK in the 8th Commission District.
Okay, is Miss Butler here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and do we have opposition to Miss Butler's request present?
Yes, you do. David Kleinfelter with Woodbury Crossing.
All righty. Okay, so accordingly, we'll get 15 minutes to each side. Now, the original application would have been by Mr. Kleinfelter, though, right?
No, not before you.
But before the MPC?
The MPC has been approved. Actually, a different lawyer, Taylor Forrester, handled it. But so your application here, I believe, is the appeal.
Right, right. But I think procedurally, this would be a de novo matter. So I think technically still the burden of proving it, I think the appropriateness of it, I think would fall on you. So it might be appropriate for you to go first and then for Ms. Butler to sort of go second. Well, of course, we will start with Knox County government first, but does that sound like an acceptable procedure?
It's unusual. I thought that she would be appealing and then I would be responding to her appeal, much as any other.
Personally, I feel it makes more logical sense since it's still a de novo hearing, that it makes more sense for the person with the burden of going forward first, if that sounds acceptable.
I can certainly.
I don't want to throw you off too much, but
that's okay.
Okay. So since this was a matter that was originally from the Planning Commission, it would perhaps it'd be appropriate to start with the Planning Commission, and then if anyone from Codes or anyone else wants to chime in, and then we'll proceed on to Mr. Kleinfelter, and then go have Ms. Butler go after that.
All right. Yes, hi. This is Mike Reynolds with Knox County Planning. I'm the planner that reviewed this case for the Planning Commission. And so what we have is they submitted a concept plan and a use on review. This included creating lots that were similar in design as the original subdivision. It's less lots than what was originally approved here. And the main difference being that the original subdivision actually extended onto the south side of Beaver Creek, whereas here they're staying on the north side of the creek entirely. The original subdivision approval had a use on review conditions that one being that before a final plat was submitted or approved for recording a detailed plan of the improvements for the 1.63 acre common area for active and passive recreation be approved by planning staff. I don't know if that ever happened. I don't have any record of that happening. It may have, but it was never part of a recorded plat, the common area. There was another condition in there about working with the Greenway coordinator for public greenway easement. That was actually still part of this most current development as well, an approval. And then the other part was extending a proposed sidewalk network to Twin Oaks Lane, which in a roundabout way has also been part of this most recent approval. So, from a technical standpoint, we're just looking at single family house lot, extension of the Edwards Place subdivision. Included 79 lots. So if you have any any questions about details, further details about the development, I'll be happy to help out.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to add one more quick detail because it was actually a condition added by the Planning Commission. So it'd be condition number 14, which said the land in this plan south of Beaver Creek remain as common area and not have any dwelling units on it. I think the intent there was just to solidify that there wasn't any intent of developing the area south of Beaver Creek as part of this plan. It wasn't necessarily to prohibit some kind of recreational use over there. Anything that would be of substance would still have to come back to the Planning Commission for approval. So if they wanted to, build a pool house over there, pool over there, something that was very structured, amenity, that would have to come back to the Planning Commission for review. If they wanted to throw up a swing set, I don't think we would, really require them to do much there. But I just wanted to just make you aware that there was a 14th condition added by the Planning Commission. And that was part of the concept plan approval, not technically the use on review.
I just want to make sure I'm not cutting you off. Is that it?
Yep, that's it. Sorry, I'm done.
It's hard to read sometimes with especially when we don't have the camera on. So, okay, Mr. Kleinfelter, if you'd like to go next.
I believe Mr. Thompson has a question.
Mr. Chairman, I butt in for just one quick one.
What is it?
That the package I received does not have the plan for what is actually proposed. The package I received shows only the existing subdivision, and I don't know if anybody else has picked up on that, but if you look in the Planning Commission case file, you can see what's actually being proposed. But can anybody pull up the plan that is actually being proposed?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, it's possible, Mr. Thompson, if you look at it, there's a big open space you may be thinking is the part that was supposed to be on there. If you had the old plan, it's going to show lots on the entire thing. This one does not show that, the new one.
Hey, Mike, can you share your screen and share the current concept? Do you have the current concept plan for Woodbury Crossing?
I do. Just give me 1 sec. I'll bring that up.
Thank you. We have it also. We can share it as well, Mike. We got it on here now.
Oh, sorry. Either way, I've got it pulled up if everybody can see it.
Fit my retainer back in my mouth, but I have.
And Mike, I think that area over there is 11 acres. Is that correct? I can't remember from the use on review, but I believe that area where your cursor is 11 acres, correct?
I think it's actually, well, it says the common area is like 16 acres, maybe. Yeah, 16.4 acres is the total common area, but that might include an area that's outside, like north of Beaver Creek as well. I'm not positive.
I'll be addressing that, so.
Mr. Thompson, is that the concept you had, or did you have the previous concept?
The package I received had only the previous concept. So the one you've pulled up, that's what I understand we're now talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
Thompson, yeah. I think we had the sort of the other piece of the puzzle that would go, I guess, directly above what's being displayed on our screen right now. Is that what everyone else has that's on the board?
I don't have that.
No, that's not what I have either.
Chairman, may I ask if the board has the letter that I submitted? It actually has both plans in it, and I would hope the board has that. It was submitted on Monday with both the previous and current plans as Exhibit 2.
Okay.
Yes, we forwarded those packages out. Everything we received, we forward to the board members.
Okay. I might have been going with, personally, I don't know if the rest of the board's in my shoes. I think I was going with the paper copy that I was probably provided a little bit in advance. Let me pull up my email and perhaps if my fellow board members want to do the same, it sounds like this might have been something that was sent out after the mail went out.
Yeah, I can bring up the old plan too if needed, the original plan for the subdivision. So if you're trying to get oriented here, the Beaver Creek is here. So this portion on the southeast part of this plan is it's shown as open space. Now there's no lots proposed on this side. Everything is on the west side of the creek and this according to this plan.
Okay. I think I've got the electronic documentation in front of me now. Does everyone else on the board feel like they've got the documentation they need in front of them? Or anyone say stop if you don't have it.
I stop. I'm still lost.
Ms. Williams, I think there was some stuff that would have been forwarded to your email within the past week. Is if you were going just off the paper packet that was sent out probably about a week ago. So if you get into your email, you should have the documents I think we're looking at. What, Mr. Kleinfelder, in the interest of time, if you're ready to go, how about you go ahead and start, and if any board members need to play catch up with when they look through their documentation, we can ask questions once everyone's had their opportunity to speak.
That's fine, and I'm an old former politician, so I talk too long anyway. I am David Kleinfelter. My firm, Reno and Kavanaugh, represents Woodbury Crossing. Taylor Forrester, who's there in Knoxville, actually handled it at the planning. He's unavoidably out of town today. And although I live in Nashville now, I grew up in Mr. Thompson's district and went to what was then Doyle and Doyle Middle and Mount Olive. And my mother still lives over off Alcoa Highway in Lakemoor Hills, where we moved in '63. So a lot of ties to Knoxville. And just some other quick background about me. In addition to being an attorney, I'm a AICP city planner. That won't mean anything to y'all. It'll mean something maybe to the planners. But I manage land development here at the Metro Planning Department. So it's been very interesting for me to sort of get into your processes, especially that last item, even with the tie vote. Our BZA here actually has an automatic rollover to the next agenda if you don't have the sufficient votes. It's just a concept you may want to look at. Anyway, on this appeal, I'm first going to discuss what I'm going to actually talk about it as an appeal, and I hope that's all right. I'm going to talk about the issue that was raised. I'm not really discussing, land use densities and full-on compliance, so I'm not representing the plans. I'm basically stating in support of those plans that were previously approved. So Ms. Butler, of course, filed an appeal as a neighbor. And there was some other stuff filed yesterday by a third party, and I'm not even clear if that party has standing or if you're going to hear that. But It's there, so I'll go ahead and address it. Background on the property, in case you can't find the materials, it was rezoned in 2007 to PR planned residential with up to 4 dwelling units per acre. Concept plan and development plan were approved in 2007, and that's what Edwards Place was developed under, those plans. The questions today are about the 30.75 acre parcel that wasn't part of Edwards Place that's finished. And in December, the Planning Commission approved new plans, the one you've got there now on your screen, for Woodbury Crossing. So that's on 30.7 acres, 30.75. Between 2007 approval of the zoning and the original plans, there were a lot of different plans that had been presented. Most recently in last, I think, August, the applicant submitted a plan for multifamily that was turned down by the Planning Commission. And then this plan came in December, and it's 79 detached single family homes at 2.57 units per acre. And it's worth noting that that's significantly less than the existing Edwards Place, which has 95 lots and 4.22 units per acre. And I do hope you'll see at some point, I'm going to ask you to take a look at it, because I did provide the Planning Commission staff report for the concept and development plan that have been approved here. And in short, as the staff said, that the plan that was approved by the commission last month meets the standards, quote, meets the standards for development within a PR planned residential zone and all other requirements of the zoning ordinance. The appellant hasn't actually presented any arguments in what she submitted that refutes that. So the only objection raised is that the commission failed to require compliance with a condition in the old 2007 plan for a 1.63 acre common area. That's actually incorrect, with all due respect, and misplaced. The 2007 plan controlled Edwards Place, of course, but that concept plan has expired, and the 2007 plan is no longer relevant. Even if there is a plan in place, and I know, of course, that's what Mr. Murphy argued in some materials that you may or may not have, and I think your staff has told you previously that there's a new plan, and this is a new plan. And you have nothing in your rules, nothing in the code that says if there's a plan this year, you can't have a new plan that's approved later and that supersedes it. And that's what has happened. And again, that new plan, as staff found, it complies with the zoning, it complies with the ordinance, it complies with all applicable regulations. So every box was checked there. Plus, not only does it meet those requirements, and the 1.63 acre that's complained of actually, again, it's in this current plan. And that's why I hope you have the letter that I sent. There's an exhibit that outlines, originally in red, it may just show in black on what you have, but the 1.63 acres is there at the eastern end of Beaver Creek. And it's a piece, and it's marked as 1.63 acres open space. That's all it says. That's what the plan says. Then if you look at the current plan, the one you've got on your screen, it's that area where Twin Oak Lane closed comes in, all that area that someone is kindly waving the hand in, that is also on this plan. So the 1.63 acres that's being complained of for not being included is included. As Butler makes a comment about that all the space included now is across the creek. Well, the 1.63 acres is that location that's being marked. So it's there on the 2007 plan, and it's there on this plan. There is one big difference, though, as you can see, between the current plan and the prior plan, and that is that the new one includes a lot more open space. In the 2007 plan, all of that land south of Beaver Creek was going to be cleared, leveled, and built with the same size single-family lots. Under the current plan, as approved by the commission, and we're asking you to affirm, that entire area where all those houses were, it's a pretty significant hillside, is now designated. The plan says everything south of Beaver Creek is, quote, designated as undeveloped open common space. Staff made the comment that they thought it could be developed or disturbed for something. I'll be honest, we don't intend that. We didn't think that was the case, and we'd be glad to have it a conservation easement placed over the entire area. But at any rate, there is no intention and no plan, and we're glad to have our hands tied and be told we can do nothing there. And so that area south of the Greenway line, the line you have showing the 60 feet for the Greenway, that area is 9.1 acres. So, but in addition to that, while the 2007 plan mentioned a Greenway, this plan includes a Greenway. There's a dedicated 60-foot Greenway easement south of the creek that will allow connection to the county's planned Greenway system. You can see there's a pathway that leads from that Greenway area into the neighborhood. An easement is required to be dedicated on that. That leads to Twin Oak Lane, which then allows for children to walk not only from Woodbury Crossing, but from Edwards Place down to the two Gibbs schools that are located to the south. So that's an additional, that easement area, if you measure it, and I ask our engineers to, is 2.4 acres. So what you've got is a total preserved common open space on this plan of 11.5 acres. And you also have, I don't even think I counted it, but it's that area to the north of the creek, which of course is a buffer that's required and can't be disturbed either. So, the path is there. There's a question raised at agenda review about, that had been a discussion in 2007. So all the ways to get to the Greenway, an actual dedicated easement, not just a concept that it must be done later, is all there. So surely the Planning Commission was within its rights. And I, again, would ask you all, even though it's de novo, to basically affirm what they did, to approve this new plan that checks all the boxes as far as legality, but includes an additional 10 acres of undisturbed open space, including linking to the trail network that will be constructed by the county. Now, with respect to Mr. Murphy's comments, again, this is unusual to me. He's not an affected party under your rules, so I don't know how he can submit a document saying, here's what this appeal is. He's certainly not an attorney, so I don't believe he can represent any party, but I'll just quickly run through the things he has said. He again says the development plan expired and not the concept plan, and that's fine. I don't see a code provision one way or the other on development plans, but it's pretty well accepted that the concept plan is expired. We spoke with staff, and staff explained that with an expired concept plan, you can't come in, final plat it, and start building on it. The two plans exist together. Development plan doesn't exist in a vacuum. If your concept plan's expired, you've got to apply for another plan to move forward. And that's what they did. They applied for a plan, and that's the plan that was approved. And anyway, it's irrelevant if that plan expired. Like I said, even if it didn't expire, you can always approve a new one. So what difference does it? You can always approve a new plan, and that's what they did and we asked you to do. Mr. Murphy's own submission, if you have that, proves the point. There's like 2 pages of different plans that were submitted, and you don't go back and apply them in a layer. You apply the current plan and the one that's there. Edwards Place has its own HOA, its own restrictive covenants. The commission appropriately required that there be restrictive covenants in an HOA for Woodbury Crossing. The one reason I kind of mentioned that I've done planning from the government side is the documents from Mr. Murphy mentioned that the developer promised a pool and a pool house, your second pool house of the day, I guess. And I know, I have a feeling, y'all, and I know that we heard you can't count how many times someone would come in and say, well, the developer promised that farm wasn't going to be developed. A promise from a developer is not a planning or BZA problem. That's a problem between the residents of Edwards Place and their developer if they misled, if there's misrepresentations or whatever there was. What they're here is to say, does this meet all the requirements? The request from Mr. Murphy that this pool be built here, so what would the BZA do? Require an HOA that would then grab in all the Edwards Place people? Would there be a surcharge to the Edwards Place people so they're helping pay for it? It just doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. And it's certainly not a part of any previous approvals, and definitely not a part of the current approval either. So plan reviewed, staff made a recommendation, Planning Commission. The Planning Commission approved it based on that. You've got that staff recommendation in your packet. This plan includes a lot more common area that's to be preserved. It includes an actual greenway easement of 60 feet. And it also includes the 1.63 acres that apparently caused all of this to be appealed in the first place. We ask you approve the plans. I had a little note here to say, I believe that means you would vote no when the roll call is made, but I'm sure the chair will go through that. But we ask you to vote whatever the vote required to allow this plan as approved to move forward is what we would request. Thank you. You're muted, Mr. Chair.
I was just noticing that. Okay. I know the actual appellant is Katrina Butler. Is Ms. Butler here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm actually going to let Mr. Kevin Murphy speak, but I did have one question. I did not receive any information from Mr. Kleinfelter. Should I have received documentation through email? Because I did not.
Is there any? Well, does Codes, do you have Ms. Butler's email? Are you in a position to share Mr. Kleinfelter's filings with her?
We can share it on the screen and we can forward it to her. I think we should get the law director's opinion on the who can actually appeal this. As we're discussing in the room, it sounds like only the aggrieved party can appeal. So we probably should get the law director's opinion on who can actually speak to the matter.
Mr. Chairman, the Knox County ordinance requires that a party be aggrieved before they can appeal it.
Do we have any guidance as to what the requirements are for someone to be considered to be aggrieved? Could they be in the surrounding neighborhood, or what makes someone aggrieved in the views of the law department?
They have to be affected by it in some way. It has to affect their property or their life in some way. But you have to. But the rules or the ordinance specifically says an aggrieved party is the party that is allowed to file an appeal. And that would be someone affected by it, a property interest affected by it. I don't know the circumstances of the person doing the appeal. I don't know if he lives nearby, if he can see it. I don't know how far away he lives, or if he has any grievance, any problem with.
Just to clarify, I think
damage.
Miss Butler, you're saying he, but Miss Butler is the person who's actually filed the appeal. I think she's asking that Mr. Murphy, who is a past member of this body, speak on her behalf. Assuming Miss Butler meets the definition of aggrieved, which I guess we could dig into for a minute. Is there any issue with her designating someone to speak on her behalf?
Well, before you can represent somebody before a board or a committee, you have to have a license to be an attorney. And if Mr. Murphy is not an attorney, I question his ability to speak for anyone.
Yes,
So
this is Katrina. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say, this is Katrina Butler. We actually have 3 community members that are speaking: myself, Johnny Caldwell, and Kevin Murphy. We all live in the Corrington community. 2 of us actually live in Edwards Place. We all want to speak on the behalf.
They sound agreed, Mr. Chairman. The ones
Sorry,
that
I'm having trouble hearing now.
I'm sorry if I've rubbed off on you, Mr. Chairman. If they live in the neighborhood adjacent, they would be aggrieved.
Okay. Well, let's start with the folks who are in the neighborhood adjacent. Anyone who's in the neighborhood adjacent, including Ms. Butler or Mr. Murphy, if he's one of them that want to speak, let's let them do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kevin Murphy, I'll go first. Kevin Murphy, 4508 Murphy Road. If I may share my screen, I've got one graphic that will address something that Commissioner Longmire brought up. So I believe it will allow me to do that. Thank you. So for very brief situational awareness, so back in 2007, the original Edwards Place subdivision went through use and review and an initial concept plan. Edwards Place covered what is currently developed as Edwards Place. There were five, through the course of history, there's been 5 units platted for Edwards Place where we've had final plats, all against the same master concept plan that was initially presented in 2007 and then renewed in 2015. That concept plan did include the area that's shown in kind of the orange, which is now being proposed for Woodbury Crossing. So Woodbury Crossing is a subset of what the original Edwards Place concept plan was. Twin Oak Landing, which Commissioner Longmire referred to before, that's another development on the northeast side, which Edwards Place would connect to by a sidewalk, but is not part of the current discussion. So I just wanted to share that for kind of situational awareness. I think this graphic kind of helps to lay that out. So I'm going to stop the screen sharing. My points I want to kind of clear up. So the original, and this took me a while to understand when I was on the board and when I've rolled off, but there's 2 pieces that go forward when a planned residential piece of property is developed. The first one is a development plan. The development plan deals with the zoning ordinance, and it deals with conditions that might be related to the zoning ordinance. That is heard under the use on review piece, and there's a use on review case that is filed, applications to file to the Planning Commission. The second piece is the concept plan, and that's the actual, like, if you want to subdivide that piece of property, that's where you actually put all of the map and the roads and everything like that. Concept plans do expire. They are good for 2 years. They can be renewed twice for a total of 6 years. At that point, they've expired and you have to make a new application for a new concept plan. A use on review or the development plan does not expire. So I want to be really clear that back in 2007, a use on review was placed all over Edwards Place, including the property that's currently proposed for Woodbury Crossing. That use on review is still in place in effect as of today, unless a new use on review is heard and added. So on that 2007 use on review, there are 5 conditions. One's carried over to the new application of meeting the Knox County ordinance. 2 of those conditions, which one is a sidewalk connection to Twin Oaks and one is about a greenway easement, those have been moved to instead of being on the use on review that's in front of you, those are on the concept plan, and the concept plan is not in front of you, but those are included as conditions on the concept plan. So 3 of the 5 conditions have been related, but the 4th condition, which is really the important one, is that there was in the use on review, the development plan, a desire to actually articulate out a detailed plan for the improvements to a common area that would have both active and passive recreational uses. So that was part of the development plan that any developers, realtors, and homeowners could see when they were making their decisions to purchase the property there. That's what, in essence, by the applicant has applied for a new development plan, removing that condition. So they have said that we're not going to provide active and passive recreational uses. But more importantly, they're taking it for the current residents of Edwards Place were expecting a common area that had some active and passive recreational uses to be part of their neighborhood. Even if the current applicant was to put a plan forward with the active and passive recreational uses in a common area, that the current Edwards Place residents wouldn't necessarily have access to it. So that's the real root of the issue, is the Edwards Place residents are very concerned that they looked at their development plan years ago. That's, it said this was going to happen. It was never platted because that common area on the original development plan has never actually gone through the final plat process, so that didn't trigger it. Now the applicant's asking you to relieve them of the obligation to continue and carry forward with that. In essence, the applicant is saying, all right, some time's passed, we'd like to not actually have to do that. And in this case, either like the bank that loaned the original developer the money is going to pocket the profit from not having to make those improvements, or the current developer that wants to buy the property from the bank. So I urge you to add that some sort of a condition back in that says that there needs to be a detailed plan for improvements to a common area with active and passive recreational uses. That would be an equivalent, and to also somehow address that the Edwards Place residents need to be able to have access to that. And if it's going to be, if there's two separate HOAs, they'll have to work out an agreement. But the big thing is common area with active and passive recreational uses that the Edwards Place residents have access to. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Is there anyone else who is speaking in support of the appeal?
Yes, this is Katrina Butler, and I can speak now, and then we have Johnny Caldwell. Okay. I was one of the first homeowners in Edwards Place, and I've spent the past 11 years watching our neighborhood continue to develop based on the original plan and Planning Commission approved in 2007. There are currently 90 homes in Edwards Place, and I'm speaking to you today on behalf of my neighbors who are requesting for you to modify the Planning Commission's decision to allow us residents the opportunity to work toward completing the vision of Edwards Place in planned, cohesive, consistent, and a transparent way, which you still have a chance to help us accomplish today. Use on review, which are the development plan, do not expire and extend to all the original Edwards Place property, including the undeveloped portion that is now being proposed for Woodbury Crossing. Therefore, the plan doesn't change, but Woodbury Crossing is trying to change the plan. We request that you honor the original plan by adding back the original plan's condition number 2. We homeowners have been waiting many years for the common areas to be built that we were promised. If you do not uphold this requirement, you will be letting down an entire neighborhood of homeowners who are relying on you for the protection of our biggest financial investments and our well-being as a neighborhood community. Where is the accountability for developers when the Planning Commission requires conditions to be met when approving use on reviews, but does not ensure their requirements are ever met? This puts homeowners in a scary situation and puts their financial assets in jeopardy. Edwards Place is where we raise their families, where young couples purchase their first homes, and where children have played together for many years. And you have a choice to make today, and this choice will impact us homeowners for the rest of our time living in Edwards Place. We are now expected to accept a different neighborhood than what was first presented to us by developers. This was required by 2007 Planning Commission. As a working class middle class families, our homes are our biggest asset. We based our investment decisions on our neighborhood that was supposed to be completed with a common area and amenities. We ask that you do your part ensuring the vision of Edwards Place is continued. After being informed by Knox County in late November of this developer's plan, Edwards Place residents contacted the developer for answers to our questions. Through the lack of response to any of the questions we emailed to Woodbury Crossing developer, they have made it clear that they are not interested in working with us to continue a cohesive community. You have an opportunity today to ensure us homeowners still receive what was originally required by commission. If you do not modify this plan, you will be telling this developer that they have no responsibility to abide by the use on review. Please hold this developer accountable, and please don't set us up for failure. As Woodbury Crossing's plan does not offer amenities like recreational field or clubhouse, it will eliminate any possibility for Edwards Place residents to ever have the amenity area Planning Commission required as condition number 2 on the very first use of review. We will never have the opportunity to build a pool, playground, clubhouse, or anything else. Our vision will be cut off because of the failure to not uphold the conditions originally required by Planning Commission in 2007. And because of an afterthought to stick another subdivision within ours just for the sake of development. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there one more speaker?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. Thank you all for allowing us to speak.
For the record, if you could state your name and address, please.
Yes, sir. I am Johnny Caldwell. I live at 7010 King Edwards Court. I was the first resident of Edwards Place. I bought the first model home We've been there since the onset of the construction. I remember being told Edwards Place would be completed in 3 phases. Phases 1 and phase 2 have complete, and phase 3 would be finishing out the subdivision with a walkway to the schools, which I understand is in the works, and a pool with a clubhouse. When we bought into the concept of that subdivision, we realized all that. And I can't talk smartly on the laws and the bylaws and, as eloquently as Mr. Kleinfelder has put it. But I can tell you what us as the community, the residents of Edwards Place expected is not what we've gotten. Just kind of picture for yourself for a second. You got 2 subdivisions inside of one, 2 communities inside of one. There's going to be a division. There's going to be Woodbury Crossings. We don't even know what Woodbury Crossings is bringing us. We don't know if it's rentals. We don't know if it's owner occupied. They refuse to tell us. We've asked them explicitly. I've called and talked to them personally on the phone. All we're asking is the amenities that we were promised. We're losing a lot of gain that we made in the original development of Rhodes communities, which fell apart. It went belly up. I understand that. That's reality. But why do we, the original residents of Edwards Place, the community that we have established today, have to continue to lose? How do we function with 2 HOAs? And if there is 2 HOAs, now we're going to have to squabble between 2 of them to use the amenities, if there are any, that are going to be built on the Woodbury crossing side of the subdivision. All we're asking is for you all to look and see from our eyes what we have been dealt with. I've been there over 11 years now, or going on 11 years. And, I know it's come to a closing. Planning Commission voted. Nothing we can do about that. All we're asking is the amenities that we were told, that we were promised, that were in the plans going forward. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. All righty. I think at this point it'd be appropriate to open up to discussion from the board or any motions.
Mr. Chairman, am I allowed a short rebuttal? I thought under your rules, if I go first, I get a short rebuttal.
How short is short?
I just have really just 2 things.
Go ahead.
One is I'm afraid Mr. Murphy lives, if he lives on Murphy Springs Farm, that's 9 miles away. And it's problematic to me that he is not someone who's affected in any way. So I think you have to discount that. And the second thing is, again, there's a lot of amenities, there's a lot of open space being added in this new plan. And there's, of course, you can ask your law director, but there's no prohibition against a new plan being adopted, and that's what's been done. So I thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Opening up to the board. Anyone have anything that they would like to, any questions for any parties? Commentary, motions? Well, I guess I'll go ahead and start. I understand the concerns by the folks, I guess we've got a couple of neighborhoods, sort of an original neighborhood and then a new neighborhood coming in. There are legal mechanisms for which, if someone wants to be guaranteed rights to other pieces of property, that they can be, negotiated for and arranged in contracts, easements and deeds. I don't think people necessarily have a vested right to what goes on in a piece of property that's not theirs. Now, they do have a right to participate in the zoning process, in the MPC process. They don't have necessarily a vested right to amenities that are on a piece of property that don't belong to them. And I think that Mr. Kleinfelder is accurately describing the law, and that pieces of property are not permanently bound by one use on review. That's why there were multiple uses of review on a think the original piece of property, as you correctly pointed out. So and we're from the as far as reasons to deny the use on review, as far as the things that we're supposed to be looking at, as far as whether or not this is, inconsistent with the zoning plan, the sector plan, that for some reason the people will be harmed by the intended use. In fact, it looks like this usage is very consistent with the neighboring usage as far as density. I think that in having looked through the records of the MPC, I think that they did their job. I think they correctly analyzed the situation, and I think this is an appropriate use. Accordingly, I'd be supporting affirming the decision of the Planning Commission. But I'm of course willing to listen to all my colleagues on the board if they have differing opinions. Ms. Longmire.
I do have a question for Mr. Klingenfelder. You were saying that there will be an easement to the shared amenities and also to a pathway leading to Twin Oaks Lane so that the kids can walk to school. Is that correct?
That's correct. I think your staff, the planning staff, can show that. And there's it comes out of the public right-of-way street and grants a public easement along a new sidewalk, path, whichever one you want to call it, right where he's showing it. And it then connects to Twin Oak Lane, which I understand to be closed to public driving, but it's still an open right-of-way. And then you can walk down there to Gibbs.
And so the people living in Edwards Place will have access to that.
Correct. Both down Edwards
correct?
Place Boulevard and Lawgiver Circle. It will connect through the public right-of-way, and then they can go down between lots 40 and 41, I believe it is there.
Okay. And is there going to be a bridge or something across the creek?
My understanding that
Just
Twin Oak
wondering.
Lane
I know that doesn't
is all
affect us
that
right
crossing
now,
is an existing crossing at that you see where the road actually goes across it. But one way or another.
Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with that.
My client will yell at me, but I'll commit. You'll be able to get across.
But I'm talking about, it's kind of marshy back in there. That's why I was asking. Okay. So they will have access to Twin Oak Lane, which will also have access to the schools, and will also give them access to the common area.
If you like, we can certainly talk to the Greenways folks about maybe a boardwalks, design is better there. Whatever works.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to.
They'll understand. Okay, thank you.
If you don't mind, I just want to clarify one thing real quick. So where Twin Oak Lane does come up to the adjacent property, that portion of Twin Oak Lane has been closed at their property line. I mean, this adjacent Twin Oak Landing subdivision now owns, they own that right away, and they do plan on putting house lots over that. So that connection most likely will not be possible from a pedestrian standpoint going forward, unless there's been a change to their plan to allow it to remain. But one potential that and one reason why we did ask for this connection from Lawgiver Circle Road down to the Greenway or to the creek and then to the Twin Oak Lane road is that there is a Greenway connection, but that's going to be potentially along the creek on the Twin Oak Landing subdivision side as well. So even if the Twin Oak Lane connection isn't possible through to the east or to the southeast, the future connection to the Greenway into Twin Oak Lane, Twin Oak Landing subdivision, and then to their internal street and to the school is possible, as well as the connection up here to the north at Lawgiver Circle to the cul-de-sac that's in this adjacent subdivision. So hopefully between those two, one of those connections will work out, if not both. But we're trying to hedging our bets on trying to make sure at least one of them happens in the long term. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that that
Was
road
there not
going
a-
to the southeast may not be there that much longer.
I'm very sorry. I did not realize.
But Mike, when Edwards Place was, that's okay.
Mhm.
Mike, when Edwards Place was developed, one of the conditions was that he would have a pathway or something to the school area.
Yeah, and,
Is
and at
that
the
still,
time,
that's still in effect, is it not?
at the time, the Twin Oak Lane right away went all the way up to their property line. But since then, the you can see here, I don't know if you'll be able to see it very easily or not. I'll try to click on a parcel, you can see like where the right of way kind of ends. But the Twin Oak Lane road right away has been closed in this section right here. And that was in the last 2-3 years. I can't remember exactly what the date was. But so in 2007, that right of way did extend all the way to Edwards Place property, but now it does not.
Okay, thank you.
Is someone from our small conference room have their hand up?
Yes, I wanted to add to what Mike said. Knox County does have a regional plan for that area, and we do want to do a network connection to the school. We are going to begin installing some sidewalks on phase 1 of Edwards Place, and we will also put a sidewalk along the frontage of Thompson School Road that would connect the existing subdivision across the street and the newly concepted subdivision on the large parcel there that you can see in the lower left hand of the screen. So we do have a regional plan there to make a connection to the school. But as Mike said, we are requiring the connection onto the Twin Oaks subdivision, but we don't know when that subdivision will develop out. So once it develops out, we'll require that developer to make that connection to the school. So there will be a network of sidewalks for the school system.
Mr. Chairman, if you forgive me putting on my planner hat, down at the southern tip there is where the back of the school property is. So maybe the greenway could actually connect to the back corner of the property somehow in the future. But we're getting the people out of the neighborhood and onto the trail system, which is, I'm afraid, the best we're able to do.
Mr. Thompson, I see that your hand is up.
If it will keep them off the roads, that'd be great.
Bob, is your hand up? You're muted. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions. Looking at this diagram, are the light gray shaded areas, is that greenway? Can someone kind of run the arrow and show us where the greenway runs? Does it run just along the creek, or does it also seems to run through the neighborhood? But Mike, can you kind of give us a narrative as you're running that arrow?
Yep.
Thank you.
So, yep, no problem. So the greenway is anticipated to be on the south side of the creek. So it'll be, so what you're seeing here on this dashed line here is just the edge of the 60-foot greenway easement. The dashed lines on the north side of the creek are actually the stream buffers and such, that stormwater related items there. But the sidewalk that would go up to the neighborhood is this gray line here. These other gray areas are easements. So this happens to be a utility easement. And this is also utility easements that go around the detention pond, and again, other utility easements. So hopefully that, that helps.
Okay, thank you. Let me, I have a couple of follow-up questions, okay? Run your arrow to the western cul-de-sac, please, the cul-de-sac at the end. Now, if I live there, how do I get onto the greenway?
If you're going to go on a sanctioned path and not blaze your own path, you would come up on the sidewalk to Lawgiver, come across to the east on Lawgiver. I guess on this plan it's to the east, and then come down the sidewalk here.
Okay, why could we not have a simple connector running south from that cul-de-sac and crossing the, I mean, that, to me, that would greatly enhance the amenity value. It would greatly enhance the health value of this. Can anyone address that, please?
Mike, wasn't there topography issues there? They couldn't meet ADA going off that
Mhm.
cul-de-sac. I think we discussed that in the, when we were doing the concept review. And I believe there's topography issues there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike.
Yeah, there is topography there, so it'd make it more difficult. They'd probably have to, do some kind of bridging. And they'd have to create a new bridge for one thing to cross the creek here, to get to the greenway. If they would do a bridge, that they maybe be able to make up that land, like the height difference, and make it ADA accessible. But that is, a bit more of a substantial cost associated with that. That's why we were hoping that they could reuse the existing crossing up here. They wouldn't have to disturb the creek and further by making a crossing to the west side of the property. And since it is already in existence, it's a free path. So that's what we're aiming for.
Do you have the same issue then if you were to cross the stream from the other cul-de-sac?
You still need to bridge the creek to get to the other side where the greenway is anticipated to be. Looks like the grades are better there, a little lower closer to the greenway, but I can't quite tell. It looks like there's quite a bit of topography that's in the background, the existing topography back there. I can't quite tell if they're bringing that cul-de-sac level down to the creek level or they're raising it up. So it's kind of hard to tell from this plan.
I might want to come back to this, but let me switch for a minute to the old idea of the swimming pool. Now, I didn't quite follow Mr. Kleinfelter. In the 2007 plan, was he saying that it was specified at that time that the amenity area would be in that corner on the south side of the creek? Was that specified where the pool would be? Is it 1.6 acres or something?
It was in this southeast corner here where Twin Elk Lane is shown.
That's what the original development plan showed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily, well, there may have been a pool that was discussed. I can't say what was in there. The Planning Commission approval was that they bring back to staff to review both an active and a passive amenity. So in the Planning Commission physically reviewed did not have, something in there. It was that they had to bring it back to staff for review.
I mean, that seems a little bit distant from the Edwards Place people, for one thing. But is there a reason that they could not proceed with having the amenity there still if that area is still open? What was the obstacle? Was it just a cost consideration?
Well, they would have to extend some kind of probably extend a new crossing of the road. I don't think the old Twin Oak Lane crossing of the creek would suffice for any type of new construction. That at the either their common area would only be accessible via pedestrian path, or if they wanted vehicles to be able to get over there, they'd have to extend a road or some kind of driveway over there, and it'd probably require a new crossing of the creek.
Were those impediments present in 2007, or have those impediments?
In 2007, they had a road that did cross to the south side of the creek to serve access to lots, and so the access to the common area was going to be off the cul-de-sac that was created on the south side of those lots.
Okay, so that was a considerable amount of payment going down then to achieve that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Going back to the idea of the cul-de-sacs being able to access the greenway more directly, to me, that would be I mean, I don't know, in 2007, I guess swimming pools were more of a popular idea, but I think since then, communities have really come around more to the idea of greenways as an amenity. And it just seems to me to have a greenway so close to these cul-de-sacs, but forcing the people to walk all the way through the neighborhood, I mean, I know there's cost issues, but I would seriously want to ask about having more access to the greenway, not just from the one indicated location. Now, if you could have people coming down from Edwards Place, coming down that western road, which again, I can't read it, but it would just make the amenity much more usable, much more friendly. If you can't do it from the western cul-de-sac, then I would ask, well, how difficult really would it be to do it from the other cul-de-sac and to even have a connection between the two, pathway between the two cul-de-sacs to allow access? To me, an amenity like this, again, would greatly enhance the greenway, and I think would help compensate for the loss of the other things that were previously promised. Thank you.
Mr. Longmire?
If you look at that western cul-de-sac, if I'm not mistaken, it's indicated that it's a common area because there may be a detention pond or a retention pond there, and that also in the other common area, the larger common area, there is also I think it's a retention pond. Does that not take up most of the space of the common areas? But the one on the western cul-de-sac, Mr. Thompson, if you look, that's a common area. So people could walk through there pretty easily.
But can they cross the creek to the greenway?
Where's the fun in crossing the creek when you can play with it? No, I'm sure they can. They'll work out something, but there are retention ponds in both of those spaces, are there not?
Yes, there's
Is that not
detention ponds in
that
both
one
of
and
these
that one?
spaces. Yeah, that's correct.
Well, Mr. Elliott and Mr. Reynolds.
And they
were
will have
trying
to be fenced?
No,
Will they have to be fenced?
They don't have to be fenced. They can be fenced, but they would still need access, through the fence to get to maintenance the pond and that kind of thing if they were to put it up.
I was just thinking of children in the subdivision. That fencing might be required. All right, thank you.
To clarify, if they are wet ponds, we require benching in those. But I'm not 100% sure what those ponds are yet. I've not seen the drainage calcs. It does appear one of them maybe has a bench in it, but I'm not 100% sure what the ponds are, so I can't answer your question with 100% confidence.
Thank you.
Well, may I continue briefly?
Please do.
We do have, part of our authority is to either deny the appeal or approve the original plan we can make some changes, correct? So where I would be leaning, not necessarily to require that we have greenway access from one of the other cul-de-sacs, but I would ask that we look into that more seriously before voting on this.
You're on mute.
Mr. Chairman, I checked with my client. We can dedicate an easement, probably the middle one. The other one is just too much ADA. You'd be discriminating against people with disabilities. But on the other one, we can dedicate we can extend the greenway easement up to the road so that when the greenway is built and if there's a decision by those stewards of the greenway that they want a bridge across there, then they could do that.
Can you give me some language that would most accurately describe where that would be?
Road A. And can staff tell me what a reasonable width for a greenway easement from the end of Road A to the greenway, existing greenway easement would be? I'm sure there's a standard.
Well, it was Knox County Greenway Coordinator would probably be able to answer that a little better than I could. We do request different widths depending on situations. I would say 30 feet is probably a pretty typical. I'm not sure if that would be enough if there was a bridge being put in. I'm sure it could be installed in a 30-foot wide greenway easement, but that might be the only concern I would potentially have, is just making sure that there's enough space for that.
If we just say a greenway easement, extend the greenway easement from the creek to Road A and a width that requested by the Greenway Commission in the existing common area. There's a lot there too, so I don't want to be taking away that lot, but in the existing common area.
Mr. Thompson, do you have further issues, or does that take care of it?
Yes, I would ask also that they look into having a pedestrian connection between the two cul-de-sacs so that the people around the western cul-de-sac could access that easement we're talking about. And I guess I would propose that, given this may raise some new issues, I would propose deferring this and letting maybe the Greenway Committee and codes maybe hash things out a little bit more clearly, see if any other issues arise. And meanwhile, I see Ms. Butler has her hand up, so I will shut up at this point. Thank you.
The parties have had their opportunity to speak, and we've got an extensive agenda that we've not gotten yet to. So this is the time for motions and appropriate discussion from the board. Accordingly, I'm just going to make a motion to affirm the decision of the Planning Commission with the one modification, as discussed, that a easement will be made from Road A. Mr. Kleinfelter, you want to help me again with that language as far as?
Extension of the existing greenway easement from the creek to Road A within the existing shown common area at a width requested by the applicable authority. I don't know who that is. Greenway people.
Planning Commission, who's our appropriate authority?
It would be the Knox County Parks and Recreation Department, their Greenway coordinators, usually I speak with.
We might get something to eat.
What about a connector between the cul-de-sacs?
I'm making a motion, and that's the motion I'm making. So if I have a second.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Thompson, your hand's still up.
I'll vote against that unless we can add the connector.
Okay. Duly noted. Any further discussion? Mr. Anderson.
We discussed the second request as far as the passive and active recreational uses, as far as the plans of maybe doing that and where it would be located.
Is that a question directed to someone in particular, Mr. Anderson?
Well, I mean, the developer, the attorney. I mean, I haven't seen anything being said about that part, and that was part of the request as far as the variance. And I know we've talked about the connector as far as the connector from the subdivision to the school, but you know, they were talking about maybe in the use on review as far as back in 2007, having a pool and some recreational areas.
So
has that been discussed, or have we?
We don't have a variance request. There is no variance request. You're correct. The 2007 plan said that the common area would be for active or passive uses, or active/passive uses. At no time did any Knox County entity, though, include a pool or pool house or anything of that nature. It simply said active or passive uses. And yes, this year, the new approved plan does not include any commitment on an active use other than the trail system, of course, will be an active use. But, it does, the deal is this isn't the same plan. That
Right.
old plan tore down everything in that entire 10 acres of common, which now dedicated common area. So it's a different plan. We're not building those houses. We're not building that street. We're not denuding the hillside. So it's kind of that's what the whole package proposal is.
Okay.
Does that, any further questions, Mr. Anderson?
No, thank you.
I don't see any other board members with their hands up. Accordingly, I believe it's appropriate to proceed to a vote on the motion. If we could have a roll call vote from the clerk's office, please.
Mr. Chairman, what was the motion?
It was to affirm the decision of the Planning Commission with the addition or the modification that there be an extension of the existing greenway to Road C at a width to be designated, I guess, by the Greenway Authority.
You ready for me to call the roll?
Yes, please.
Okay. Ms. Williams?
Are you sure? Mr. Corcoran, Ms. Corcoran, can you repeat what you said, please? I thought we talked about Road A.
Let's see.
Mr. Kleinfelter, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we had said Road C. Did I get the road wrong?
No, I had to find the unmute button. Absolutely. The middle one, the one with the lesser, and the what we're offering is to dedicate it the easement, not that we don't want to build, of course, a greenway to nowhere.
Yeah,
dedicating the easement.
Okay. So
Road A.
The motion is to affirm the decision of the Planning Commission with the exception of the modification that they will afford an easement in an appropriate width to be designated by the Greenway Authority to extend the greenway to Road C. That's the motion. Does everyone understand the motion?
It's not Road A.
Road C. Okay. If we could do the vote, please.
Ms. Williams?
I've been struggling to keep up with everything. Let me pass.
Ms. Williams? Ms. Williams passes. Ms. Rowe?
Aye.
Ms. Rowe votes aye. Mr. Corcoran?
Aye.
Mr. Corcoran votes aye. Mr. Williams is absent. Mr. Anderson? Mr. Anderson votes aye. Ms. Kerr?
I've recused myself on this
I'm
item.
sorry, I forgot. Ms. Kerr recuses. Mr. Harden?
Aye.
Mr. Harden votes aye. Ms. Longmire?
Aye.
Ms. Longmire votes aye. Mr. Thompson?
It's Road A. Did the motion call for Road C or for Road A?
C.
But does the diagram show that to be road A?
Road A, Mr. Chairman.
It says
Oh,
road A.
Forgive me. We
Been a
said
long
road. Okay. It's been a long day. Road A is what we're saying? Okay.
There's
Does that
no
anyone's
road
vote?
C.
Does that change anyone's vote? Who's voted so far?
No.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
I'm voting no for the reason I previously stated. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson voted no. And does the pass wish to vote?
Well, realizing it's A instead of C, that helps, but I'm still struggling. I don't feel I have adequate maps and everything and understand and able to follow along as much as I would like to make my own vote. However, I do feel somewhat led to follow my more knowledgeable commissioners. So I'm going to follow the lead. First time, I don't usually do that. But I'm going to follow the lead of my chairman, my other more knowledgeable commissioners, and vote aye.
Miss Williams votes aye. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 aye votes, 1 no vote, and 1 recusal.
Accordingly, the motion passes. This concludes the matter of item 4C.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and for your all service to my old hometown.
Thank you, Councilor. Okay, proceeding on to item 4D. Before doing so, does anyone need a restroom break or any other?
Mr. Chairman, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Certainly.
We have got a small problem. The stream for this meeting is going to have to end so the Board of Health can be streamed to CTV. So I think we should probably discuss that matter if we can continue, or what our options are. I think Rob Lee could probably interject on if we can even be streamed to YouTube or what's going to happen. And then we should probably get the law director's opinion on how the meeting should continue.
Hey, real quick, this is Rob. It's not to CTV. CTV, I believe, is on here and shouldn't have a problem continuing. It's the stream that's on the Knox County government's YouTube page and homepage that is double booked from about 4:45 on, because the health department has their Board of Health meeting beginning at 5 o'clock. I'm working on some things in the background here that may allow us to keep going on both streams, but I just wanted to let you all know of the potential conflict.
So just to make sure I'm following, Rob, we are still going to be on the CTV and they're on CTV's website?
That's my understanding. I can confirm that, but that's my understanding.
And Mr. Law Director, I believe that at least on our agenda, that's what, assuming the agenda matches the notice we sent out, I think we said that it would be available online on ctvknox.org. Is that are we good to continue with that, or as far as Open Meetings Act, or do you know?
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman? This is Myers Morton.
You're echoing a little bit, but I can hear you.
Yeah, yes, the notice of this meeting states the meeting will be available to the public on community television, CTV, or by internet on www.ctvknox.org. Once Mr. Link is able to confirm that this meeting will go forward on ctv.org, then we don't have a violation of the Open Meetings Act. We can proceed. But if we were not to be on one of those, on the internet streaming or on CTV, we'd have an open meetings problem.
And Mr. Chairman, this is Rob again. Just to be clear, the Zoom meeting can continue indefinitely. and it will be continue to be recorded. And if the Knox County stream has to stop, the recording can be posted up to the Knox County archive in its entirety immediately following the meeting concludes. So,
and the law director can correct my understanding if I'm wrong, but what I took him to say is, as long as we're still on CTV and on CTV's website, we're good to continue. Otherwise, we would have to stop due to the Open Meetings Act.
okay, and I've got a message into CTV, and I will let you know if we're able to resolve the issue on our end as well.
What time, if it were to stop, what time would that stop at?
About 4:45.
Okay. When we started that, I was bringing up the concept of taking a bit of a break, perhaps for 15 minutes. Everyone nod your head if that sounds like this is a good time to do that. Okay. For us to take that break, do we need to stay on the Zoom? Like doing that as far as the, do we just stay on or stay on and mute ourselves? Rob?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, stay on and just either turn off your cameras and mute your mics, or just at least mute your mics.
Okay. Okay, so we'll plan on getting back on here at 21 after. There's at least, I've got 4:06 right now. 15 minutes. Okay.